I keep being surprised by the amount of archaeological sites and features that are left to find all over the world. In archaeology, context is everything. Objects allow us to reconstruct the past. Taking artifacts from a temple or an ancient private house is like emptying out a time capsule. I hope my work contributes to understanding long-term patterns of human behavior and how we survive, thrive, or fail during times of environmental, social, and economic crisis. Satellites record data in different parts of the light spectrum that we can't see, and it's that information that allows satellites to be so powerful in terms of looking at things like vegetation health, finding different kinds of geology that may indicate an oil deposit or some kind of mineralogical deposit that can be mined. Scientists use satellites to track weather, map ice sheet melting, detect diseases, show ecosystem change. The list goes on and on. I think nearly every scientific field benefits or could benefit from satellite imagery analysis. We're using satellites to help map and model cultural features that could never be seen on the ground because they're obscured by modernization, forests, or soil. Ichtai was ancient Egypt's capital for over 400 years. At a period of time called the Middle Kingdom, about 4,000 years ago. The site is located in the Fayum of Egypt, and the site is really important because in the Middle Kingdom there was this great renaissance for ancient Egyptian art, architecture, and religion, choosing an unconventional career path. I am not a traditional Egyptologist by any means. I found what I love, and I have stuck with it. People were looting tombs 5,000 years ago in Egypt as soon as people were buried. But the problem is only getting worse and worse. Indiana Jones is old school. We've moved on from Indy. Sorry, Harrison Ford. If you look at the Nile on a map of Egypt, you don't think it has moved very much, but the river is very violent and has moved over time. In Egypt, I do survey work on the ground. That's really the most important part of using satellite images. You know, it helps us to find potential locations for sites. And then we get to go there on the ground and confirm what we've seen. The most exciting part of what I do is understanding the scale of what we don't know. There are just countless archaeological sites all over the world. And one of the most important and best ways of finding them is using digital technology. I give my grandfather, Dr. Harold Young, a forestry professor at the University of Maine, full credit for my career path. He pioneered the use of aerial photography in forestry in the 1950s, and we think he worked as a spy for the CIA during the Cold War, mapping Russian installations. What satellites help to show us is we've actually only found a fraction of a percent of ancient settlements and sites all over the world. It's the most exciting time in history to be an archaeologist. When you think about archaeology, archaeology is the only field that allows us to tell the story of 99% of our history prior to 3000 BC and writing. The looters are using Google Earth, too. They're coming in with metal detectors and geophysical equipment. Some asked me to confirm sites. I am one of many people documenting damage and looting at ancient sites from space. It is such a crucial tool. I've always loved teaching and reading and talking to people, and my grandfather was a professor. It's an important tool to focus where we're excavating. It gives us a much bigger perspective on archaeological sites. We have to think bigger, and that's what the satellites allow us to do. It's absolutely critical, you know, to train young men and women not just to find sites, but also to protect sites, especially in the wake of the Arab Spring. There's been significant site looting in Egypt and elsewhere across the Middle East. There's even an aircraft sensor system that sends down hundreds of thousands of pulses of light measured at different return rates. It allows you to literally strip away vegetation and see entire cities beneath the rainforest canopy. This is the unbelievable future of archaeology. There are so many previously unknown sites and structures all over the world. And I think most importantly, what satellites help to show us is we've actually only found a fraction of a percent of ancient settlements and sites all over the world. I already find pyramids from space. Is there anything cooler than that? All over the world, we're finding out that, whether it's Egypt or Syria or Central America, what satellites are showing is that there are hundreds, if not thousands, of previously unknown settlements all over the world. And what archaeology does, it helps us to understand this common humanity that we have. We're literally just beginning to learn how to use satellites to find sites. More and more people are realizing there's this incredible tool. Looting has an immense impact on our ability to understand our global cultural heritage. Once these objects are gone, so too is our chance of piecing together humanity's shared story. A lot of people are surprised when I talk so much about the present, but politics is just a crucial part of archaeology. You think looting is bad in Egypt? Look at Peru, India, China. I've been told in China there are over 250,000 archaeological sites, and most have been looted. This is a global problem of massive proportions, and we don't know the scale. We've found that patterns of site looting have increased between 500 and 1,000% since the start of the Arab Spring. Now this is a problem as old as human beings. People were looting tombs 5,000 years ago in Egypt as soon as people were buried. But the problem is only getting worse and worse. To excavate a pyramid is the dream of every archaeologist. I dig in the sand and I play with pretty pictures, so I never really left kindergarten. Satellite archaeology refers to the use of NASA and commercial high-resolution satellite datasets to map and discover past structures, cities, and geological features. Before doing fieldwork in Middle Egypt, I analyzed satellite imagery to determine exactly where I wanted to go. Within 3 weeks, I found about 70 sites. If I had approached this as a traditional foot survey, it would have taken me 3.5 years. When I was a child growing up in Maine, one of my favorite things to do was to look for sand dollars on the seashores of Maine, because my parents told me it would bring me luck. But these shells, they're hard to find. They're covered in sand. They're difficult to see. Archaeologists have used aerial photographs to map archaeological sites since the 1920s, while the use of infrared photography started in the 1960s, and satellite imagery was first used in the 1970s. The only technology that can see beneath the ground is radar imagery, but satellite imagery also allows scientists to map short and long-term changes to the Earth's surface. Buried archaeological remains affect the overlying vegetation, soils, and even water in different ways, depending on the landscapes you're examining. When a wall is slowly covered over by earth, the materials it's made from decay and become part of the soils around and above it, sometimes causing vegetation above and next to the wall to grow faster or slower. Satellite imagery helps archaeologists to pick up these subtle changes. Archaeologists gave the military the idea to use aerial photographs for spying and field survey. We are fortunate that the spatial and spectral resolutions of the imagery available to us are so broadly useful for archaeology. When you think about the scale of human populations all over the world and the fact that there's so much here, really, the only way to be able to visualize that is to pull back in space. It allows us to see hidden temples and tombs and pyramids and even entire settlements.